The camp was too quiet at night. That was the part the women couldn't handle. During the day, the German POWs worked in the laundry building and kitchen sheds under supervision. The guards were strict but not cruel. Orders were short. Conversations were rare. No one smiled much, but no one shouted either. Still, night was different. Because every single night, at the exact same time, they heard it. Boots, slow, heavy, crunching across the gravel paths outside their barracks, back and forth, like someone was circling them. Inside the wooden barracks, whispers spread from bunk to bunk. "Do you hear it? They're watching us." Why, every night. One of the younger women, Lisa, pressed her blanket to her mouth to stop her breathing from shaking. She had stopped sleeping 3 nights ago. "They don't trust us," someone muttered. "Maybe they think we'll escape. Or worse." No one finished that sentence, because fear fills in blanks better than words ever could. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Silence. Every woman froze. Then, a soft metallic sound. Click, like something being set down. Then the boots walked away again. No shouting, no orders, just footsteps in the dark. By morning, no one had slept. At breakfast, the women looked pale and hollow-eyed. Even the guards noticed. One of the American guards, a tall farm boy from Iowa named Miller, frowned as he watched them barely touch their food. "What's wrong with them?" he muttered to another guard. That night, the footsteps returned. Closer this time, slower, and again. That quiet metallic sound outside the door, but this time, one of the women decided to look. The footsteps came again, slow, measured, crunching across the gravel like every night before. Inside the barracks, no one spoke. No one moved. Even breathing felt too loud. Lisa sat upright on the lower bunk, fingers digging into the blanket. Her heart pounded so hard she thought the guards outside might hear it. Step, crunch, step, crunch. The boots stopped right outside the door. Silence swallowed the room. Then came the sound again. Clink, metal touching wood. Lisa couldn't take it anymore. Before anyone could stop her, she slipped off the bunk and crept across the cold floor. Every board creaked like thunder in her ears. "Don't," one of the older women whispered. But Lisa was already at the door. She waited. Nothing. Slowly, carefully, she lifted the latch. The door opened just an inch. Cold night air rushed in, and moonlight spilled across the wooden step outside. She looked down. Not weapons, not restraints, not a trap. Blankets. A neat stack of folded U.S. Army wool blankets. Still dry, kept under a small metal cover to protect them from the night dew. Beside them sat a metal thermos. Steam rose faintly into the cold air. Coffee. Behind her, the women stared in disbelief. Lisa stepped outside just enough to see further down the path. 2 American guards were walking the perimeter fence, not circling the barracks, not watching the women, watching the woods beyond the wire, rifles in hand, guarding the camp, guarding them. The metallic sound they heard each night. Was the thermos being set down on the step, so they'd have something warm when the cold crept in. Inside the barracks, one of the older women sat down on her bunk, covering her mouth. All this time, they had thought the footsteps meant danger, but it meant someone was staying awake, so they could sleep. Morning came softer than usual. No one rushed to line up. No whispers spread through the bunks. The air inside the barracks felt different, warmer. The extra blankets were folded neatly at the ends of beds now, but no one returned them. The thermos had been emptied, washed, and placed carefully by the door before sunrise. The women stood in line for breakfast, quieter than ever, but not afraid. When Guard Miller stepped forward to count them, he noticed something strange. They were looking at him, not with anger, not with hatred, with questions. Finally, the oldest woman in the group, Greta, who had not spoken to a guard in months, stepped forward. Her English was slow, careful. "You walk every night." Miller nodded. "Perimeter watch." She hesitated, then gestured toward the barracks. "For us?" Miller shifted his rifle strap on his shoulder, a little embarrassed. "For the camp," he said. Then, after a second, more quietly, "That includes you." The women exchanged glances. Greta swallowed. "We thought—" She stopped herself, then tried again. "We were afraid." Miller looked confused for a moment. Then it hit him. The footsteps. The metal sounds. "The blankets?" he said. "It drops below freezing some nights. You weren't issued winter weight yet." Silence stretched between them. One of the younger women spoke from the line. "The coffee?" Miller gave a small shrug. "Cook said you weren't finishing dinner. Figured you were cold." No speeches, no grand gestures, just practical kindness in the middle of a war. Greta gave a small nod, the kind soldiers give each other. "Thank you," she said. Miller tipped his helmet slightly, awkward but respectful. Behind him, the sun rose over the fence line, light spilling across the camp. That night, for the first time since arriving, the women slept, and outside, Boots still walked the gravel. But now the sound meant something different. It meant someone was awake, so they didn't have to be. Weeks passed. Winter came harder than anyone expected. Snow piled along the fence lines, and the wind cut through the camp like a blade. Work details got shorter, nights got longer, but the footsteps never stopped. Every evening, right on time, boots crunched along the gravel paths. The women no longer froze when they heard it. Sometimes, one of them would even sit up for a moment, just to listen, not in fear, in reassurance, because now they knew what it meant. Someone was awake. Someone was watching the darkness beyond the wire so it wouldn't reach them. One night, a storm rolled in fast. Snow and wind howled against the wooden barracks, rattling the walls like the world was trying to tear them open. Inside, the women huddled under their blankets, the same heavy wool ones left on the step weeks before. Lisa lay awake, listening to the storm. Then she heard it, faint through the wind. Step, crunch, step, crunch, still walking, still there. She closed her eyes, and for the first time since the war had taken her from home, she slept through the night. Spring came slowly. One morning, the camp buzzed with a different kind of tension. Not fear, not uncertainty. Orders, transfers. The war was ending. Names were called. Groups were organized. The women packed what little they had. Before leaving, Greta stopped at the barracks door one last time. She looked down at the wooden step where the blankets had once been placed. Then she looked toward the guard tower. Miller stood there, hands tucked under his arms against the morning cold. She raised her hand. Not a wave, not a salute. Something in between. He nodded once. No words crossed the fence. None were needed. Years later, long after borders changed and uniforms were gone, some of those women would wake in the middle of the night during winter storms. And for just a moment, they would listen. Not for bombs, not for sirens, but for the steady sound of boots on gravel, the sound that once meant fear, and then meant safety.